Hello and welcome to ForMorSport, the show where we talk about all things football. My name's Johnny, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, my very good friend Chris. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I feel like I'm starved of football, but apart from that, yeah, good.
Yes. And as you can clearly see, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by some amazing fans. I won't talk about their clubs quite yet. I'll allow them to speak about their clubs for themselves. Now, just to let you know, we started this show pre-recorded. So initially we were pre-recording our shows, putting them out. Then we started going live. And now we are doing it where we have main contributors. This is going to be an absolutely awesome show. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I really hope that you enjoy hanging out with us while we talk about football. I mean, I know we've picked a week. We've picked the international break week when we do this. But hey, you know what? We are still going to have an absolutely awesome time. But that's enough of me talking. I'm going to introduce my wonderful guests. But in true form, I'm going to start the ball rolling by making them introduce themselves in league form, in league position first. So we are going to start with Roger. Roger, I can see that you are wearing the away kit of Chelsea Football Club. Tell us about your club and your experience and a little bit about you and the team that you support.
Well, as you know, there's not been much about Chelsea in the news. We're quite an understated club. Keep out the headlines. No, well, I actually started supporting Chelsea around about 68, 69.
Wow.
I was only about 9, 10 years old, and we used to live in London on the Finborough Road, so we could literally hear the crowds at Stamford Bridge because it was less than a mile away.
Yeah.
So, that was my association. We lived very close to it. It was local. And a very good friend of mine from school, same age as me, supported Chelsea. So I just decided that was the team for me and started supporting them, as I say, before the 1970 Cup final, which was the big one, the first big thing that we were involved in, really, that I can remember. But I've been through all the bad years when we were being beaten by Oxford and Peterborough in the second division, and struggling and almost going out of business. So been with them a long time, and it's been the last 20 odd years, obviously, forgetting the fact that Mr. Abramovich has owned it, and that upsets a lot of people, has been glorious for Chelsea supporters because we've won just about everything you can win. And, as a supporter, being with them from those years when they were being relegated and struggling to now sitting on the top of the pile, it's been a great journey. So that's my experience with Chelsea, and thankfully I managed to induct my son into the right way, so he also supports Chelsea. So we try and get down there when we can. Not been able to go last few years because of health and obviously the other problems, COVID. But before that, we try and get down there as much as we can, midweek and weekend when it was possible.
So you've, as you said, you've watched Chelsea go through highs and lows. Right now, you must be very happy. Obviously, aside from what's going on at the moment on the pitch, you must be very happy with the return you've had from Chelsea currently.
I think we've played better football in the past. Some of the teams, it's my personal opinion. The team now is very functional. It can grind out a result without being the most spectacular on the eye. But we've got results. We've won trophies, but I think some of the teams before, you're going back to the Drogba years and Anelka and Kalou and people like that, it was a lot more pleasing on the eye with Lampard rushing into the box and stuff like that. Now, I think, personal opinion, it's just a much more functional team in that they get a result, although, they're not as easy on the eye as Cities or your Liverpools, for example, who you enjoy watching because of the style of football. I don't think we're quite there. But we get a result, and they're doing well. So
I don't know if you can see that. I can see your son Robert has that up the Chelsea. So thank you very much, Robert, for coming in, supporting your dad. Obviously, as he said earlier, he's inducted you into the ways of. I'm going to be doing that with my son as well. So no one try and influence that.
So Johnny, I sent him out with a Chelsea shirt on.
I know. For those who don't know, this is my father-in-law here. Unfortunately, he's also infected my wife that she likes Chelsea as well. But hey, that's another story. So we'll move on down the league. We'll move down to in the next position. That's Nana, my fellow Arsenal fan. Tell us a little bit about you, Arsenal, how you got to supporting the club, and some of your experiences, please.
Well, back when I was young, there was various clubs that I did like them, but I didn't really support them, and I never used to go to football. Now, my dad was a football lover, loved Pele, Brazil, but he never actually had a UK side because he came from Ghana.
Right.
So I was a bit of a vagabond going from not really supporting a club to club. But when I got to high school, there was a guy called Paul Merson.
No way.
Yeah. He used to be in one of the same classes as him. So I thought, do you know what? Arsenal's local, and not being funny, they had quite a few black players as well. So I thought, because when I used to actually go to Chelsea back in the day, and there was a bit back in the 80s, there was a bit of a racial element where I was scared of going. So
Me too.
Right.
So I did, I went to Arsenal because there was more black people there. So I thought I'll go with that, and Merson's there. And that's my origination of following Arsenal. And then, lo and behold, sorry, Chris, they do the 89. And that was just remarkable. That was just remarkable. So from there, it was just sealed. And then 91, they do it again. And Chelsea in 91, I don't know if you know this, Roger, in the 91 season when George Graham won the league, Chelsea was the only team to beat Arsenal. We could have been invincibles in 91 with George Graham. Chelsea beat us 2-0 or 2-1. Chelsea beat us. Otherwise, we would have been invincible that season.
Wow.
So that's all the way back then, which many people don't really remember or pick up on.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, but again, it was all through like not just Merson. Similar to Man United, when Man United had all these young guys come through with gigs, etc. Arsenal had a batch of young guys with Merson, other guys all coming through all at the same time. George Graham bombed out all your Charlie Nicholas and all the sort of the bigger stars, similar to what Arteta's doing today. Bombed out all the bigger guys, went with the younger guys, and we won the league twice in a matter of 3 seasons. So from 98, we won the double under Wenger, and I found it hard to get a ticket for the last game. I think it was against Everton. And in fact, I had a couple of tickets. And after that time, I thought, wow, it's so hard to get a ticket. I'm going to join membership from 98 onwards. I've been a silver member. My son's just like Roger. I've got both my sons supporting. My older one, Josh, is more of a solid, more diehard than me. And the younger one can come. He comes now and again and is growing into it. But Josh knows much more about. He has more time. So he has much more time to know who's coming through, who we should be getting, who should we, So he's very well into it. And I'll mention something about your son later on, Roger, because he said something that stuck with me for many years. Football, if you're still listening, Roger, not Roger,
Robert.
What was he saying? Trophies is the currency of football, and I always quote you on that. It's a true saying. True saying. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, it's a great story. And as I said, when I was doing the thumbnail for this show, I asked all the guys, send me a photo. And actually, the photo of the thumbnail that I used for Nana, I've actually had to remove Thierry Henry from the picture. And, it broke my heart that I had to do it because I'd love to put that on there. But because I knew that, we are the stars now. It's us. It's all about us. I thought, no, Thierry, you need to take a back seat. It's all about Nana. So, Nana is actually shoulder to shoulder with Thierry Henry, quality Arsenal player.
Well, I'm not quite shoulder because he's up there.
There is that. So, moving on now into the European Conference position, we have Keith.
That's cold.
It's a bit hard.
That's cold.
Fire in the hole! Keith, if you would like to, I can see you're wearing a Manchester United shirt. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience growing up as a fan, and tell us all about your, how you became the United fan that you are?
I'm not sure if I want it now.
It is what it is. Remember, the battle. It has begun now.
My family aren't really big football fans. My dad was not a football fan at all, but my granddad grew up in North London, so he was a Spurs fan.
Right.
But he wasn't massively into it. He kind of was a bit of a casual sort of Spurs fan. But I'm being from that well-known Manchester suburb of Hertfordshire. Decided to. I thought I'd get that in before anybody else.
Yeah.
Decided to support Man United. It came out of at primary school, and bear in mind in the 80s, we were dreadful. We really were at times. I mean, I can remember Ron Atkinson's sort of tenure at United. And everybody in my year supported either Tottenham or Liverpool. I mean,
right.
on the playground, it was all Ian Rush. You know, everyone pretended to be Ian Rush or Paul Walsh or John Barnes, whoever it was. That they were the players that were the sort of idols of that time, and understandably, I mean, Rush was a machine. You know, you could sort of see why, even though he's perhaps a little bit before my time when he was at his absolute best, but. You know, that they were the team. I used to be, you know, if you were Liverpool at school, I used to have to be, you know, someone like Jan Mulby or something, because that didn't.
Still good, still a good player, still a good player.
He was.
Brilliant.
I loved watching. I remember seeing. Mark Hughes. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember this, but Mark Hughes scored an overhead kick for Wales against Spain in a World Cup qualifier in the mid-80s. And I was like, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I mean, it was just, and I loved watching Mark Hughes. I mean, the guy, just his technique when he was volleying and he throwing himself all over the place, really caught my imagination. Brian Robson, you know, was the England captain at the time and was known as that kind of superstar in the middle. And he was, and those sort of players in particular. And there were one or two others from that era, Gordon Strachan and different ones like that I like. But those two in particular really helped me sort of become a United fan. A friend of mine at school said he liked Man United as well. We went against the grain. We weren't going to support Liverpool. We were going to support someone else. And that's what we decided to do. I had no idea, you know, what was to come when Alex Ferguson took over. I mean, none of us did. You know, it was my first game actually that I went to was actually at Highbury. I stood on the North Bank at Highbury, about 14 years old, with my mate who was an Arsenal fan, and watched Man United and Arsenal draw 1-1 in a league game. I think it must have been 92, something like that. And I've probably seen United in London a few times. I've been to Old Trafford, you know, several times throughout the noughties. I haven't been recently for one reason or another. It's been difficult with one or two family things, but you know, it's a long old trek from here, but it's worth the trip. It's a great experience, especially on a European night. Old Trafford on a Champions League night is something else.
So really. It's fair to say then that you supported United not as a glory hunter, because they were not the glorious team that they were. And I suppose at the time Liverpool were the team that was in ascendancy. The
very much
Dalglish years, and
Liverpool and Everton.
Sorry,
Liverpool and Everton were sort of sharing the league between them.
Yeah. So did you feel, you know, obviously once Manchester United and now, you know, they were then, you know, under Alex Ferguson, were doing really well. Did you feel a little bit guilty because you were, you know, at the time you were saying, I don't want to talk in Liverpool because they're popular, you know, they're doing really well, and then suddenly you became...
No, not really, because it felt more authentic. It felt like I'd been with them a bit like Roger, really. I'd been with them during a bad time, you know, and I'd allowed myself to sort of... I mean, there was... most people remember there was a season where Ferguson was like one game away from the sack.
Yeah. Robin scored the goal, didn't he?
Yeah, FA Cup.
And it was only because we went on a cup run and we ended up winning it that he was kept on. And that season was awful. And I remember it quite well being... We were on a run sort of in the middle of the autumn where we didn't win for 10 games, you know. I mean, that would never be allowed now. It just wouldn't be tolerated, would it? But back then, it was... somehow he survived it. And, you know, Mark Robbins scoring that header in the third round against Nottingham Forest was just... Again, if I'd known what a moment that would have been, I would have probably enjoyed it that bit more. But at the time, I remember thinking, oh, well, we've got through a round, but so what? You know? But yeah, I never felt guilty about it. I always felt like it was more authentic, I suppose, because I'd kind of gone with them from a bad time.
So basically, you're now looking at, to be fair, each one of the clubs here have tasted, the high life. They've tasted quality. They've seen it, been there, done it. Some are still there. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that now, because obviously we're older fans. We've seen a few games. We know.
Slow down there, buddy. Slow down.
With all due respect, a lot of the just a very quick ad. I wanted to get a Man City fan on the show today, and I really struggled. And the thing is, I was thinking to myself, why am I struggling? And someone wrote, because they don't exist. and I thought, no, they do. But obviously, it is harsh. But unfortunately, we didn't get a City fan. Maybe the next time we go out, we'll find one. Who sits around in the empty hat. We will find one to come on and talk about how well they're doing. So I know, as we said, we've had some shots fired. We've introduced ourselves. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your football journey and how we get to 2022, the season that seems like it was a one-horse race for most of it, and then everything seemed to change in the last maybe month or so. It seems like everything has changed, and now we're looking at a two-horse race. But what I wanted to speak to you first, and I know that there's a few subjects I want to talk about. We've picked the international break week, unfortunately, so a lot of the conversations that we may well have had would be very current. So we're going to be talking historically about what's been going on in the league so far. We'll start off again, obviously, with the highest team. This time, I'll bring Chris into it now, because of all of us, you are the highest position in the Premier League. And this is the same question I'm going to run to everybody. Okay. First of all, we're just going to go with a very direct, straight question. Yeah. Who is going to win the Premier League?
Manchester City.
Why?
They hold the advantage. Liverpool have done well to come back, but City aren't playing badly, and really they shouldn't have lost to Tottenham. They shouldn't have drawn with Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Liverpool have to go to the Etihad. They still have to play Spurs and United at home, and the running is so difficult. Whereas I think City have played everybody in the top 6, if I'm not mistaken. So, in all honesty, it makes the end of the season a little bit more exciting. But they've got the know-how, they've got the squad, they've got the manager, they've got the points, and then the fixture is in at their place. They are the reason. That's the reason I'm going with them as favourites.
And Liverpool obviously have to go there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's a big thing. Yeah. What about you, Roger? Where do you think the title will go?
I find it very hard to disagree with anything Chris has said. I think it's between those two. They're definitely the best two teams playing in the league at the moment. I'd have to say probably City just slightly shade it over Liverpool. I know Liverpool have got the momentum and City are stumbling a little bit, but Guardiola knows how to get them across the line. He's done it a few times, and as Chris said, they do have the slight advantage. So if I had to be pushed in it, I would say probably City, but I think Liverpool's going to run them very close.
Okay, Nana?
Yeah, when people ask me this, I say City straight away. And the reason I say City is because I backed them before a ball was kicked. I backed them once the transfer window was shut. I carried on backing them. I said it's going to be City. Yeah. I would listen on TalkSport and I'd hear Simon Jordan saying Chelsea, and I was saying, talking at the radio, no, it's going to be City. I was shouting it's going to be City. So I've always gone. But what I have been really impressed with is this run Liverpool's gone on to close the gap. And now, I'll be honest, I think Liverpool have a a very, very good chance of beating
Got the momentum, haven't they?
Yeah, the momentum. But like what you guys have just said, if they win it, is this the 4th out of 5 seasons that he would won it, the league? Yeah, there you go. He knows how to do it. And Chelsea did it first of all. They got 2 players for every position back in the Abramovich earlier. City now have got the squad depth. That's what it is. Liverpool are building now. You've got guys like Diaz and Jota, and you're slowly doing that. So you will soon have 2 quality players for every position. But that's the reason why City will do it if they do it, in my opinion, is because of the squad depth. Not because City are a better team than Liverpool, just because of they can afford to get more injuries than Liverpool can, in my opinion.
I agree.
So, okay, that's a very good. And what about you, Keith? Where do you think the Premier League?
I'm going to stick my neck out here. It's been mentioned already, but the word momentum is a huge factor in football. Yeah. And all of the momentum is with Liverpool. I'm going to reference the United example. 1996, Christmas 96, we were 12 points behind Newcastle. 12. And we reeled them in because of momentum. We just kept on at them. The only provisos I would put on that, 2 things. Everyone needs to stay fit for Liverpool. And that is a problem for them. You get an injury to Salah and, it's over. So there are provisos on that. But I would also argue that City don't have a striker. And I think that was the problem. And when you think about Crystal Palace game the other week, they couldn't break them down. And you sort of think, had City got Kane in the summer, that's a game that Kane would have probably made the difference in. Agreed. And I think, I know Guardiola likes to play without strikers. He used to do it at Barcelona, false 9 and everything else that he used to do with Messi. And I get that, but you get Messi, so you can do that. But I don't know that this. I thought it was a risk when they didn't get a striker, and I think all the momentum is with Liverpool, and I think if Salah continues to do what he's doing, I think they've got a really good chance. So I would, at this point, stick my neck out and go with Liverpool.
Very interesting, isn't it? That we did. Chris and I spoke before, where at one point there was 14 points, and it has been clawed back. And the famous words are now they're going to believe us. I still feel that, as you said, there is that chance now that it isn't just going to be City running away with it. Liverpool are there. Cup games are important now. I think how they manage the players, how they manage who plays, resting players. You've got Champions League. Liverpool now are going to be playing City in the FA Cup. Actually, we're going to talk about that in the semi-final. It's going to be a really interesting final part of the season. I didn't expect this because obviously at the beginning it did look like it was going to be a runaway. Well, initially I thought Chelsea were going to do it because Chelsea started off so well, and I thought Chelsea, and then obviously with what's happened, Lukaku not firing, or whatever was going on at Chelsea, they just slowly started to falter, and obviously City and Liverpool carried on. So actually, I did actually put in my notes.
So host, could we get you to stick your neck on the line? Because at the
moment, that's the beauty of being the host. I get to stay neutral. I get to sit on the fence and ask the question. But to be completely honest with you, I think I hear momentum. I understand that. I hear Liverpool are in the ascendancy, but I do actually think that it is going to be based on the size of the squad and how many players you can play, 3 times a week. And I think because of that, it will, I think, fall into the lap of City. However, I think the Champions League is a completely different story. And I think that as much as I think the Man City will win the league, Man City will win the Premier League, I don't see them doing that in the Champions League, because I think Liverpool, are now. I just see Liverpool as one of those teams. Liverpool and Real Madrid are those 2 clubs that have pedigree in the Champions League. Unfortunately, Real Madrid are playing Chelsea, so they may probably be getting knocked out in the next round.
We did them last year.
Exactly.
Yeah,
did
that's
over 2 legs. So I think that there's going to be enough to go around. I mean, I know there's talk of the quad. I don't think that's going to happen, but I still think that, but if it did, it would be absolutely amazing. But I still think that it's going to be about who can manage their guys the best over the next couple of weeks and months. And obviously we've got internationals as well. Internationals, you hope that all your guys come back fit and ready to continue and carry on.
I tell you what, Johnny. Sorry. If Robert's still listening, he'll confirm this. I don't think Real Madrid have ever beaten Chelsea in open play.
Oh, really?
Never.
No,
Never.
I don't believe they've ever. But, it's either been penalties or we've had players sent off and things like that. But 11 against 11 on the pitch, they've never beaten us. So history is on our side, but that counts.
Yeah, wow.
Nothing really.
I mean, it is obviously it is really, really exciting. So obviously, I did mention the FA Cup, and I know that at the moment imagine you're the FA, you spend a lot of money selling the rights of Wembley Football Stadium to the world. Everyone loves watching the FA Cup, but at the same time, British Rail say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to be doing some work on the line over this weekend." I'd like to know your opinions on the fact that the FA have completely messed this up, and now you're looking at 2 clubs from the north of England physically unable to get to Wembley. I want your opinions on, should it still be held at Wembley, or would you have accepted playing at Old Trafford or at the Millennium Stadium, or going up north to Scotland in one of the bigger grounds? What's your opinion on that, please?
Well, I heard that these train works were planned 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So everyone knew when they were, and the FA were told as well when they were, but they still ploughed ahead. Obviously, they didn't know that 2 northern sides were going to be contesting the semi-final. But I think it would be, for the sake of the fans, a good idea to switch it. Whether that can be done logistically, I don't know, but certainly for the sake of the fans, travelling down to Wembley is going to be a nightmare on that weekend because of the planned works, which have been planned for over 2 years to be done. So I would say try and switch it to the north if possible.
I agree.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Roger. If they've known about it for a while, you should have kind of said, look, we're not going to do Wembley full stop. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't agree with Wembley semis. I prefer regional semis. Much better atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I support a team that's from up north but live down here, and I just think it's better for the fans, especially if you are regional, to be playing at a neutral ground where it's closer for both of you. The segregation is very different. It just gives a better atmosphere. So I don't understand.
Wembley's special, isn't
it? Yeah, and you're right. I think Roger said that Wembley is special.
Save it for the final.
Yeah. But I think obviously money talks, and there is advertising, and Wembley is a business. It needs to reap the revenue. Having 2 semi-finals there is a really good thing for the FA. Nana, what's your take on it?
I think I heard on the radio, I don't know if it's the last 5 seasons or the last 10 seasons, I can't remember the exact facts, but a team from the Northwest has been in the final every single season from the last. So right, what was just said earlier, that they've known about it for 2 years. So from recent history that a team from the Northwest is going to be in that semi-final. So that's one thing. The other thing, when I'm listening to the radio, I'm hearing there's maybe about 15,000 fans that will actually travel by train, maybe 20,000 fans. So if you actually look at it like that, it's a sizable chunk, but it's not 60,000 that's coming from Northwest by train. So let's put that in perspective as well. It's not the whole 60,000 is coming by train.
No.
And now I'm going to put on a hat that's going to be very unpopular. If I'm Wembley, they spent, I don't know how, they went over budget when they built that place. I don't know if anybody remembers. Well over budget. And I'm the same. I'm traditional. I would have preferred, not just for now, but how it used to be, Villa Park and etc. Old Trafford. I preferred that the finals should always be Wembley, and it shouldn't have been none of this nonsense for the semi-finals. But I'm a realist. I fully understand they need to bring, like you mentioned earlier, money. They need to bring in an income for what they've lost, and they've just had COVID for the last couple of years. So there's been finals with no fans, etc. They need the money. So if I'm the FA, I'm not changing that. I don't care. I'll give lip service, and I think they've offered 100 free buses. I'll do stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's my bottom line that's counting, especially when Wembley was over budget and we had COVID and we didn't have fans. No, I'd be sticking to my guns if I was the FA and just saying it's at Wembley and it's always going to be at Wembley. And then even when they've got their money back, then the greedy hat will come on and it will continue to be at Wembley if we're realistic. It's never going to go from Wembley because of the money now that's involved in football.
Yeah. And what about you, Keith? What's your take?
I mean, I think most of it's been said, but I'm a traditionalist. As I say, we're all from a generation that remembers semi-finals at Villa Park and different places like that. And it does detract from the final. I'm trying to remember when the first one was at Wembley. I've got a feeling it was Arsenal-Tottenham.
It would have been after. I think it would have been after the new Wembley, isn't it? When the new Wembley.
No, there was one. There was definitely one back in the Gaza free kick was definitely scored at Wembley.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That was definitely Wembley. Now, you can sort of understand it when you've got Arsenal and Tottenham were the two had the two biggest grounds, I suppose. You know. Stamford Bridge at that point didn't even have a roof, I don't think, and they weren't. It wasn't the stadium.
Didn't even have a roof. I remember there was a wall. There used to be a wall with paintings of fans. Do you remember?
Yeah. If we are going to go there, I remember going to matches with my friends, and the Ken Bates had with the buckets save the bridge things and stuff. Sorry, Roger. But that's why you're loving it now, Roger. That's why you're loving it now.
We almost went out of business, didn't we?
Yeah.
But my point is, when you get two London clubs, I understand that it's the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Because you've got to send people into the Midlands and everything else. But now you've got the West Ham Stadium. Tottenham and Arsenal have got brand new stadiums that are, 60,000.
Yeah.
Stamford Bridge is now, a proper stadium with. I mean, it's not. I know they want to redevelop it, but it still holds 40,000. Villa Park isn't a million miles away. Yeah. For Liverpool City, I mean, Old Trafford holds 75,000. So, what's the problem? How's that? In terms of selling tickets, it's perfectly adequate to do the job. So, as you say, it's about money, not about convenience, is it? At the end of the day.
Cool.
Yeah. So imagine this now. We've got you've got a league which is doing really well. You've got an FA Cup tournament where you've got some big hitters: Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and
Palace,
and Crystal Palace.
They're no pushovers at the moment.
No,
they're not.
They're very good.
See, this is now another discussion that I would like to. I slightly mentioned this to Roger earlier on, and I want to know your opinion on this. Crystal Palace are currently loaning a player called Gallagher, and he is having an absolutely fantastic.
Don't get me started.
He's having an absolutely fantastic season with Crystal Palace. He has shone. He has been a shining light, even to the point of an England call-up playing against Switzerland yesterday. Now, I'd like your opinions on this, and we're going to go in reverse order now. Obviously, we're going to go from, and we'll start with Keith, so he's not always playing the end of the discussion. I want to know your opinions, gentlemen, on the fact that Chelsea are not allowing him to play in that semi-final, playing against his parental club. I want to know your opinions. Do you agree? Do you think that is right? Or do you think that he should be allowed to play because he's done so well for Crystal Palace and he is a massive part of what's going good at Crystal Palace? So, Keith, I'd like to know your opinion, please.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to be a hypocrite because it wasn't that long ago that the same thing happened with Tim Howard at Man United. He went to, I think it was Everton on loan, and we had a game that was in a big game for the title, and he wasn't allowed to play. We'd put that embargo on that. I suppose at the end of the day, it comes down to what's contractual. You know, I suppose you agree a contract. He's your player. You've developed him. You know, as much as I'd love to see Crystal Palace have the best chance possible, we all would. They're an underdog. You know, if it's in the contract, it's in the contract, isn't it? And that's unfortunately, you know, big clubs do this, and they do this all the time. And you loan a player out to give them experience, and it can come back and bite you. But I do understand it, is what I'm saying. As I say, we did it. We got a lot of criticism for it. You know, people didn't like it. But at the end of the day, you know, contracts are contracts, aren't they? You have to sort of abide by them.
Okay, so I didn't want to get you started, but I'm getting you started, Nana.
Yeah,
I know you said I want to know. Come on.
Basically, I think in this particular case, I think the FA Cup, it's not actually Chelsea. I think it's an FA rule for the FA Cup. That's my understanding.
Ah, okay. That's
my understanding. It's the FA that have got this. You can't play against your parent club.
Right.
He's not cup tied, is he?
No, it's not cup tied.
No.
It's not cup tied.
It's from my understanding, I think it's the FA that are stopping this particular case. It's not Chelsea themselves, is my understanding.
Okay.
I think it's a bonkers rule because the Champions League allows it. So if the Champions League allow it, why are not the FA allowing it? So that's one thing. So that's why I'm vexed with that. The other reason I'm vexed is it's a form of cheating. And sorry to thing with Chelsea, because Chelsea they get a whole load of players, they can loan them all out, and you can play against all Chelsea's competitors. And then if you play against Chelsea, well, you can't play. So then now that sting, because some of those players will want to. I'll show you. You give me on out. Look, I'm going to score goals against you. I'm going to show you I should be in. They'll play. Don't think they won't want to play. They'll want to play and score, and stick the proverbial two fingers up to show you should never let me go, kind of thing. So I think it's wrong. I just think that it shouldn't be in any contracts. I think if you've gone somewhere on loan, it should just be down to that team's manager if you're playing or not. If they can see how you're training, they can see how you're playing. They should decide. It shouldn't be on the parent club, is my opinion. And so it's not a Chelsea thing. It's just all clubs. No club should be able to do it. Once you're at the loan club, you are the loan. Unless you're cup tied, that's a different matter.
Well, I don't know if you can see this. It says that the rule applies in the Premier League. It's not applicable to the Champions League, as previously we've seen Chelsea loanee Courtois play for Atletico Madrid against his parental club. So does it mention about the FA Cup? Because this is the FA Cup.
The Premier League is not the FA Cup.
Yeah, because I'm sure I've heard that it was the FA. The FA. I think it's the FA that have done this particular one. It's not Chelsea doing it. So you can't blame Chelsea for this one. This is the FA. I think is my understanding.
I mean, what's interesting, and I don't know if you would remember this, but the Brazilian who just plays at Aston Villa now,
Coutinho.
Coutinho was playing for Bayern Munich when they played
Rob just mentioned that in the chat.
Sorry. Okay.
He scored against them.
In fact, look, let me put that on there. Clubs have been stung by letting their loan players play against them in the past. Coman for Juve against Bayern. Bayern against Barcelona. So, but what I mean is that at the moment, Gallagher didn't prove himself at Chelsea. He's proved himself at Palace.
Yeah.
And a big part of his development has been at Palace. But now that they get to the last time that Palace got to a semi-final of this level, was it the Ian Wright semi-final against Manchester United?
2006.
No. They got to the final against United a few years back. Louis van Gaal last
right. So it seems a bit. I don't know. It just seems a bit strange that one of the main players in their squad is not going to be available to play in that game. And it's obviously, as Keith said, it's contractual. And I know Nana's has his own point that you can't blame the club
on this occasion.
On this occasion, Roger, what's your opinion on it?
Chelsea haven't started this. This has been going on for so many years. You know, every club has loaned players out, have not let them play against them. And as Nana says, it's an FA thing, not a Chelsea thing. From a Chelsea point of view, I'm glad he's not going to play. The guy's absolutely brilliant, and he might do us some damage. So that's the last thing I want. But it is unfair for him because he'd want to play. I will bookend it by saying, by coming back to Chelsea, he'll get to play in lots of finals in the years ahead. So he's not losing out. It is rough on Conor Gallagher. I mean, you forget also we sold Mark Aguirre to Palace. He's just got called up. So they've benefited from our loan system and from our youth club. Yeah, it is tough on Conor Gallagher, and it's a bit of a shame. But I'm glad he's not playing. And as Nana said, this is not a Chelsea ruling. This one is an FA ruling. But every season we have this conversation with clubs not letting their loanees play against them for what they consider very good reasons. So it's just what it is, really. I'm not overly fussed about it. I still don't think we're nailed on to beat Palace. I think we're going to have to work hard at that one because they're a decent side. We should win it. We should win it, but it's no guarantees in this sport.
And so my question earlier on was who you think is going to win the Premier League, and we sided. It seemed like it was more along the lines of City rather than Liverpool. But the second side of that semi-final is actually Liverpool versus Man City. Is a cup game different to a Premier League game?
I'll pin my colours to the mast now, Johnny.
Yeah,
I think we could do it. Now, I'm not saying we're the best club left in the tournament, because that's open to debate. But we know how to get past the line on these things, and Tuchel's a master at finals and what have you. So I wouldn't bet against Chelsea doing it, only because we know how to do it. But as I say, that's not me saying we're the best club left in it, because that's a matter for opinion and debate. But I think we've got a really good chance.
Yeah.
Johnny, you and Chris have mentioned something about Real Madrid.
As long as he doesn't bring Kepa on.
To save the penalties.
You and Chris have mentioned something, and you mentioned it in one of your other podcasts as well, about Real Madrid and Liverpool. And I used the word spirit, and you're using the word pedigree. I don't know if your word seems better than my word, pedigree, but but the reason I want to say it is because Chelsea and Arsenal in the last 20 years had the pedigree for the FA Cup, and Chelsea especially in the last 10 years. So if you was going to do the vote thing, I would say Man City and Liverpool are better teams than Chelsea. That's proven by the league. But I'm with Roger. I actually think Chelsea will win the FA Cup because of their recent pedigree. They know how to keep winning this cup. And they're in the final. Even if they don't win it, they're in the final.
Well, we can't guarantee they're there yet. They still got.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying if I was a betting man, I'm not a gambling man. But if I had money and I wanted to put it on one, based on what I see from the pedigree in the last 10 seasons, Chelsea would be where my money is, and because of their recent form in the FA Cup. They're in the final and they win it, or they always get there. They know how to win it. But
you do know that. Sorry, Nana. You do know that they've already been in a final this year already, with Liverpool.
But they didn't. To be fair to them, they didn't lose. Okay, the record says they lost, but they didn't lose that. And I mean, if we're going to be open and honest about it, should they have lost? There was a couple of decisions that I know we discussed
the Lukaku goal that wasn't a goal.
All of that. I'm not going to sit here and rub anybody's face in it, not at all. But if we're going to be open and honest, they were unfortunate. Only thing I'd say then, for me, they're my shout as well. Believe it or not, I actually think, because they were there last year. They shouldn't have lost to Leicester. They dominated the game and lost. Right?
Yeah.
With what Roger said earlier about Thomas Tuchel just knowing how to get his team ready for that kind of thing. For me, coming up against City or Liverpool, I mean, look, nobody wants Liverpool versus Chelsea again. Nobody wants that. But if it has to be, Thomas Tuchel, there is no way he's going to sit there and let this one slip through his fingers. There's no chance. I just think if Chelsea get past Crystal Palace, I think on the back of last year and the back of what's gone on this season already, I think they'll get over the line.
And Keith?
Yeah, that's all very reasonable. I think I'd back Chelsea as well. I think Liverpool and City are going to be preoccupied by the Premier League. I could see, weirdly, I could see both of them playing under strength teams in the semi. Weirdly, I could really see that happening. I could see, Oxlade-Chamberlain and one or two others getting a run out, and not to be complacent, and the talk of the quadruple for Liverpool is obviously there, and that's the last thing I want to see. My money would be on Chelsea as well. I think, as I say, they have this ability to get themselves over the line in these competitions, okay, it's a good shout.
So,
come on, host. Come on. No.
As I said, this is the beauty of being a co-host. Is my clarity. I ask the questions and I get your opinions, and I love that you all have an opinion, which is great. One thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's funny, we all have teams that we recognise and say, dead cert, they are going to win. You look at the games, and sometimes there is a David and Goliath moment where a team get knocked out. Arsenal when we played Nottingham Forest, then Manchester United played Nottingham Forest, and then it's about these big teams were playing and they kept knocking them out, and Middlesbrough knocking out Tottenham.
Spurs.
And there's these games that you look at and you say 100% that is a result. So, and this is one of these things I always find interesting. I'm going to add this to the screen now, and I want you to tell me if maybe you can explain. Maybe one of you would kindly explain.
Great leading.
Your take. Thank you. I planned this one. I'd like to know your opinions on this scoreline, because I'm just to give you a little bit of background. Chris and I was having a discussion about this on Wednesday. And we specifically said it was going to be Italy versus Portugal, a battle between those two teams to decide who will go to the World Cup. And we were very adamant it was Portugal versus Italy.
You and the rest of the world.
So imagine my surprise when I see this scoreline. So guys, please explain. I want your opinions. If you saw the highlights or you watched the game, I want to know what has happened to the European champions.
So I never saw the match, but it's a stunning result, isn't it? In extra time as well. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Amazing.
I saw the highlights. Oh, go on, Keith. Go on. Sorry, go on.
All I was going to say, something that makes this even more incredible. I don't know how many of you know this. Someone showed me this stat. Italy have never lost a World Cup qualifying match at home.
Oh, wow.
In 60 years.
Wow.
How many years?
No one had ever beaten them at home. And that's astonishing. And you think how, that talk about being a dead cert. I can't imagine what the odds were on them winning that game. But I mean, Italy just know how to defend, don't they? They defend their way to everything. But that's astonishing, isn't it? That's the first home defeat in a World Cup qualifier ever.
I saw the highlights, and I've got here the stats in front of me.
Nice.
The possession for Italy was 65%. They had 32 shots on target. The other team had 4. They had 5 on target, which is pretty low. But the thing is, when I saw the highlights, they were pummeling the North Macedonian goal. The North Macedonians had 2 on target. Italy had 16 corners. They had no corners. So it was one-way traffic. It was one-way traffic. And then it was the sucker punch of sucker punches. So it wasn't like it was a lucky win. So,
My son's getting his bit in here.
Oh, there you go. There, thank you. If this match was played 10 times, Italy would win 9 of them. If this match was played 50 times, I think Italy would win 49 of them, in my opinion. So it's just one of those days when this is what's happened. But here's a little bit of a thing I'd like to spin round, because I was hearing a lot of glee, and I was one of them. You know, happy they'd gone out, happy they went out the time before. Would you take winning the Euros for England, or if you're not English, whatever your national side you want to win, but not being in the World Cup last time and not being in the World Cup this time, or would you rather be qualified for both World Cups and not win the Euros?
No, I understand. That's a very good question, and I think that as a football player, you don't play football to just be an also-ran. You play football to win things. You can't. You don't want. There is no benefit. This is arguably the decision that Kane is thinking about. He's going to break Rooney's record. He's one of the most successful goal scorers in an England shirt. He is a fantastic footballer, but has won nothing. And his whole season, his whole career, when they interview him in 20 years time on Sky Sports or on the BBC, and it says he scored many goals, but he'll be sitting next to someone who has won a title. It's not, honestly, I'm so embarrassed when I see them interview someone, and you've got someone like Gary Neville, who's won everything, and then you'll have someone like, I don't know,
Gerrard.
Wow!
He's won the Champions League. Come on.
Yeah, he's won the Champions League. Yeah, he's won the Champions League.
Did you just say Steven Gerrard? Did you say
he never won the league, did he?
He didn't win it.
I know what point you're making, Chris, though.
But what I'm saying is, I can't believe Chris said that. I can understand the fire in the hole from Keith, but not you, Chris. Wow.
Slippy G. Old G.
Anyway, now you said that.
Sure everyone's awake.
We are awake.
Oh yeah.
Trust me. I was not expecting that. The fact that in answer to Nana's question, I would much prefer to have 1 star on my shirt that I earn rather than go into a tournament and win nothing.
Yeah, very true.
I quote Rob Myers again. Trophies is the currency of football. Not qualifying. Trophies, winning. Yeah. That's the currency of football. Yeah. And I will keep quoting Rob till I die on that one.
And in regard to that result, Johnny, you often hear, we've been talking about who's going to win the semi-finals, and I've said Chelsea are going to win them, but football's not played on paper. Football's played on the pitch. And that's what, do you remember a few years back when Chelsea went to Bradford? And we were 2-0 up at half time. And we were thinking, we're going to get there. And they come out and beat us 3-2.
It was 4. I think it was 4.
Sorry. Yeah, right now your memory's better. It just shows you there's no such thing as a banker. You think
Schadenfreude, or whatever you call it.
You go there and you think we're going to win it, and you're a better team. But
it's what makes
it
Keith. And unique. I don't think. I think out of any sport, I think it's what makes football unique. I don't think there's many other sports where you have that on their day. Almost anyone can beat anyone.
Unless you're Mike Tyson and you're fighting Buster Douglas.
Johnny, just on that point, actually, I totally agree with you. I think especially when it comes to international football, I think you secure your legacy, don't you? If you can get yourself over the line, you're not just somebody who, when they, like you said, doing the interviews in the punditry office, and it said played in Euro final. It's a case of this person won it. You look at Messi, he literally just won the Copa America a year ago or something like that. Yeah. At that point in time, Ronaldo had done Euros and international league. And when you start looking across the board, a lot of people can be called great, they can be called legends, but at the same time, if you don't secure an international legacy, you're not going to be in upper echelons, as they say.
Kane's international legacy will be that he will break Rooney's record. He's got 4 more goals to score, and he will do it. And I've had this conversation before where they said, well, Rooney scored most of his goals in qualifying games. Kane has scored a large share of his goals in actual tournaments, and obviously, but still at club football, he unfortunately still has won nothing and is trying to go somewhere so that
you are very rude. You are very
rude. You know, he can put he can put something in his cabinet, you know, and the thing about it is it is obviously he's looking. I mean, realistically, he is looking at that now. I know there are many Tottenham fans that will say he's one of our own and we love him and this, that, and the other. But if he spends the rest of his career at Tottenham and wins nothing,
you're putting your neck on the block.
He is a failure. and because you can individual level, yes, he is up there at individual level. You know, he could probably be, you know, he's one of the best strikers in the country. But this is not a singular sport. It's a team sport. Yes. And you've all got to be on the same team. And yeah, he has carried Tottenham for many years. Him and Son have got one of the best assist and goal records. They've done
the best now.
The best now. You know, they've just knocked off Lampard and Drogba's record. They are doing fantastically well. But if they win nothing, then it is, as far as I'm concerned, a failure on his part, and that's part of the reason why I know he wants to go somewhere to win things. You know.
So can I ask you something, host? Alan Shearer, in terms of so Alan Shearer, to my knowledge, won one trophy. Yeah, it was the biggest. Yeah, he only won one in his whole career, right? Can
I just quote a film? Can I quote a Lethal Weapon film?
Talk to me.
Diplomatic immunity. I can't do a South African accent, but
fair enough. But,
listen, I'm going to say to you, we've had this conversation before. Alan Shearer is very, very fortunate that he was in a Blackburn team that had won the league, so he can at least say, "I have won the league." Don't get me wrong; he has scored, you know, the most goals. He was a goal machine. He has done it. But he can, when he's interviewed on Sky Sports, now BBC and wherever else, you know, BT Sport, he can on the ticker at the bottom, it will say 1 Premier League and loads of goals.
Yeah.
Harry Kane, unfortunately, at the moment will have Champions League finalists, but nothing. So
does winning trophies automatically equate? And look, I know we're going a little bit off, but let's think about it. Does trophies automatically equate to greatness? Because remember, it's a team game. And the other question, would you take him at Arsenal?
Would I take Harry Kane at Arsenal? Remember, he started with us, man.
But would you take him?
I would take Harry Kane in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Harry Kane,
big Arsenal fan, yeah?
And I'll tell you why. Because Harry Kane does what he would fit in that Lacazette role perfectly, holding up the ball, laying perfectly. He would. I'm not joking. I am one of these fans that look at the Tottenham striker with jealousy that they have got.
Green eyes here too.
Trust me, Kane he was the scourge of Arsenal for many years and probably still many years to go. I would have an injured Kane on my team.
Here's a question then, Johnny.
Yeah, go on.
Would you take him over Haaland?
No, because of age.
Haaland's age.
Purely and simply because of age. I know that Haaland is a young striker and we could have him for many, many years to go. And so that would be the reason why I would take Haaland. I would take an inexperienced Haaland over an experienced Kane, because Haaland will just, you know, how many goals? He's scoring more goals than he's played, and he's young, and he's got the hunger. Harry Kane right now,
he's unbelievable.
Harry Kane right now is, you know, he's looking at one last major payout, win the league with City, you know, but even that isn't guaranteed if Liverpool have anything to do with it. But anyway, before we go off too much, I said to you at the beginning, I have a spine of a an agenda. I've got to use the right word because obviously Nana has got me when I say, where's the agenda? There is an agenda, but I'm the only one that knows it. You don't. That's the beauty of live. Anyway, so my question is this, panel, gentlemen. Imagine you have a football player at your club who is excellent. He is the epitome of quality.
Oh no.
He is one of the best players you've ever seen. He has scored goals at every level. He has got pace. He's got experience. He's got knowledge. He's absolutely fantastic on the field, but only at international level.
Whoa.
How frustrated would you
Oh, yes, you have, haven't you?
Boom!
Paul Pogba, right? Oh, no.
Exactly.
Paul Pogba, I'm thinking of a certain Bale. We're talking this man can't even get in the Real Madrid squad. And yet...
That says it all about Wales.
And yet, did you see the free kick he scored against Austria the other day? He is sublime. He is quality. Now, if you had him in your team, if you are the managers of your club, would you have him sitting on the bench? Opinions, please.
Can I jump in here?
Please do.
I was quite surprised at his statistics. The guy has won X amount of trophies. They said that he scored more goals than R9 did, the original Ronaldo. He's got more assists for Madrid than Zidane did.
I think Zidane,
right? So when you look at it and you say these guys are held in such high esteem, he's almost both of those put into one. I don't understand what has gone wrong there, because it's not even a case of he's played under different managers and he's fallen out with them. He's literally played under two, Zidane and Ancelotti, right? Yeah. And it started off well with Ancelotti. Zidane, I think it's the money. If I'm going to be brutally honest with you, I think they just want him off the wage bill. It's literally that. They don't want him to play because of money. It's not ability. I look at someone like Eden Hazard. I don't know what has happened to him as well. He was the best player in this league, and he has gone there, and I don't know what has happened. There is something about Madrid. Sorry. But
we were going to get to Hazard. We might as well discuss that while we're here now.
So I think it's just about money. I just think it's about money.
Okay, Keith, what's your take on the Bale, the professional golfer Bale, and his?
I don't think he's got a very good injury record, has he? And that doesn't help.
Yeah.
When you've got a player that does struggle to stay fit, and he had a poor injury record at Tottenham, to be fair. He very rarely got through a season without. And when you're that quick as well, I suppose things do go quite easily when you're kind of always on the edge of your pace and everything else.
Yeah.
I love watching him. I mean, there was a time when Ferguson was tabling a bid to take him to United, and I mean that would have been fantastic. So I do love watching him, and that free kick really was something else. And you can look at the stuff he does. I mean, even the goal he scored. Sorry, Chris, but the overhead in the final. I mean, what an unbelievable goal that was. You know, and he's got that in his locker. He's always had that in his locker. So personally, I don't understand why he went back to Madrid after last season at Tottenham. I don't understand why that happened. To me,
I can answer that. Can answer that.
Please,
and it was answered earlier. Money. He's on £600,000 a week. Who else is going to give him £600,000 a week? When you've got no takers, he's got no choice. He was going to go to China, wasn't he? Because they were willing to give him the £500,000 a week.
Yeah.
I don't know if Madrid paid some of the money with Spurs. Yeah, there you go. So it's only going to be on that basis. It's only going to be on the basis that Madrid pays some of it and will pay some of it. It's the money. It's back to the thing that, Simon Jordan keeps going on about. It's money. If it wasn't for the money, he'd be playing somewhere else. And I agree with Chris. Because of the money, they've got their media. I hate some of the media. but they've got there, put this dirty gutter story out about this player so we can blacken his name, so we can get everyone against him, so he can get out of our club. And I think that's what's gone on. That's my personal, but that's what I think's gone on, because he's won 4 Champions Leagues. His goal scoring record is better than some of the heroes. His assist record is better than some. And there was another record as well. I can't remember. There was 3 Real Madrid legends, and he was better than them, and all of them.
Yeah. Can I just interject here? Our resident what do you call it? He's Rob is our guy. He's the one that's doing all of the fact finding for me. He sent me a text and he said, Gareth Bale at Real Madrid, 173 goals, assists in 256 appearances, a goal assist every 105 minutes, 4 Champions Leagues scored in 2 different finals, 2 La Liga titles, 1 Copa del Rey, 4 World Cups, one of the greatest Premier League to La Liga transfers ever. And I'm talking, and then keeping in mind that this is someone who, when he left the Premier League, obviously that season where he carried Tottenham, still didn't win nothing, but
bailed out again.
that season where he carried them, he was unplayable, wasn't he? He was literally unplayable. And I did think to myself, he's going to go there, and obviously he's going to a Real Madrid team where Ronaldo's there. So he, you know, in the same way that I'm going to get to you, Roger, because I'm so don't think I've forgotten.
No, it's all right. I'm okay.
But the fact that, and I think I said to you, Chris, when Benzema joined Real Madrid, he joined on the same day as Ronaldo, and kind of went into his shadow because Ronaldo was so big. Bale forced his way into that conversation. And when he scored those amazing goals in Champions League, he was put up there. There's no question about it. I almost feel, and as you said, he's hamstrung in the sense that he's if he was prepared to take less money, then maybe he could have gone somewhere else. But if you're going to earn 600,000 to play golf, wow!
I'm not taking less money. I'm not taking less money. I'm one of the best players in the world. Why am I taking less money? If I'm the player, let's be realistic. I'm the player. I'm one of the best. I've won you 4 champions. Why am I taking less money? Sorry, but that's how I would be. So, you know.
Yeah, and so you've got a situation where we have him pretty much not doing it at club level, but he's at the moment they're 90 minutes away from getting to their first final in 50 odd years, I think it is. This is a really big thing, and obviously this could be it for Wales. They did one of the Euros. They did well in the Euros, or was it remember the old? I love that. I was doing this the last time.
Semi-finals.
Semi-finals. They did fantastically well, and that generation, if they don't do it now, they won't do it. I think this is it now for them if they don't. But sorry, Roger, I didn't get to you. What's your opinion? What's your take on Bale?
No, I think much has been said already, and I can't disagree with anything. I certainly wouldn't take a pay cut. He's won everything, so it's not as if he's desperate to win a trophy like Harry Kane, who's. So yeah, I think he plays out of his skin for Wales. One, because the home sides, they do have this passion. It's a bit like Scotland. They think they're the greatest in the world, and they've never done anything.
All you Scots people out there.
But Wales are incredibly passionate, and as you said, this is probably his last chance of doing it now on the international level. So he's fired up for that. Club-wise, you could argue, as we've seen and Rob says, he doesn't really need to do much because he can hold his record up against anyone's. But internationally, I think he'd like to do it. So, I think that's why he played out of his skin. Maybe that's why he's always available for the Wales games when he can be, whereas a niggle will make him, not play if he's not fancied at Madrid. But I can't really disagree with anything that's been said by any of the guys already about Gareth Bale.
Yeah, it is interesting. We look at someone like that, his quality is not in question, and it's just sad that because of politics, football politics, that we're not seeing him doing, being that guy. He could be so much more at Real, but obviously the media out there now have decided that he, must go, and so he just sits on the bench, and it's very, very sad.
But then is there an argument? Sorry, Johnny, to cut you. argument that he is, and I didn't watch all of them, of course. Is he the greatest ever Welsh player? Is there that argument?
What about British? What about even British?
As in, no, just Welsh.
I'm adding British. I'm adding British.
Oh, you're adding British. Oh, that's a.
I'm saying, is he the greatest ever British player?
Oh, that's a very. That's going to be a discussion for another life.
yeah.
I believe that because I mean, when we talk about how far back do we go? We're going back to the Charlton era. We're going back to the World Cup winning team. I mean, we're talking about a lot of players. Don't get me wrong. People like oh, do you know? I can never remember his name. Who's the Northern Ireland player that just did amazing? Georgie Best.
Yeah,
we're talking about real quality players who, for one reason or another, they didn't have a collective team good enough to get to tournaments, but they were brilliant in themselves. Welsh players, I would say that obviously you've got people like Ryan Giggs up there. You've got Rush, obviously,
Gary Speed.
I mean, with due respect,
wasn't John Charles Welsh?
Say that again.
Wasn't John Charles Welsh? You went to Italy and toured up there.
Yeah. So do you see what I'm saying? There's been some great Welsh Toshaks and the likes. There's been some amazing Welsh players over the years, but I think great player at the same time as great national team has been the mismatch. And that's I think been the problem, is that they may have had some great players at club level. They could never recreate that at the international level. But right now they are. And I think when you think some of their players don't even play in the Prem.
No.
Some of their players don't play in the Premiership, and yet they are challenging to get to the World Cup. Says a great deal about Welsh football at the moment. And I think that, this is obviously, but I've heard them talk about you've heard the term golden generation. This is that generation, because I don't see who's behind them. I don't see who is going to fall into the Ramsey, shoes. Who's going to fall into, the Bale space.
Joe Allen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's lots of. They've got the timing seems to be right for them. So I would say that maybe this is going to be the opportunity for them to do it. And they played a really good Austria side, but they just played better. They were really good. Obviously playing at home, and there was a lot. I mean, I watched the game, and I genuinely thought, they're ready. They are going to, but obviously the problem I have now is the other side of that semi-final is the Scotland-Ukraine. And I'm not quite sure if that game obviously has been postponed. What's going to happen there? I said to Chris, I think on Wednesday, that Ukraine should get Russia's spot and let them go. And then they get to the tournament. Russia's not in it. Ukraine takes a spot. Then it doesn't unfairly and unjust. Because are you going to be able to play a real game of football when you know that your family members are in danger back home? You're not going to be mentally prepared for it. Personally speaking, if I was head of UEFA, FIFA, or the bodies that deals with this, I would say Russia are not going. Ukraine.
So sorry for my ignorance. Has Russia qualified then?
They're in the playoffs.
Do you know what?
I see. If they're in the playoffs, and they got thrown. So then that means you can't do that. Otherwise, that would have been the ideal solution.
The team they should have played have a bye into the
Poland. Was it Poland? And Poland refused to play them. They said, we're not playing you. We don't care. We're just not playing you.
Russia advanced to the playoff, but they were suspended.
Yeah.
So obviously that suspension would have been, it was Croatia, Russia, Slovakia, and Slovenia. So either way, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for Scotland to have that game. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a Scottish player playing against them anyway. Beat them, and then you've beaten a team that have been beaten down. But if you lose, then you've lost your first opportunity to get to a World Cup for many, many years. And Scotland are going through a resurgence as well. So there's a lot there. Right. So we are now at the point on the agenda, as Nana clearly stated, of any other business. Because I need to be a little bit more regimented. I'm not. I like to freewheel it, and we just go with it, and it's been amazing. You've all had some really good comments, and it's been great. But and obviously there's been a few things that I've dropped a few gems in there where I've gone, yeah, what do you think about this and this, that, and the other. My last discussion is going to lead us back to a comment that I put in the chat earlier on, where we had an African Cup of Nations final between Senegal and Egypt. Senegal won the game. They won the African Cup, but they were always going to be playing again in the knockout for who goes to the World Cup.
Yeah.
And amazingly, Egypt beat Senegal in the first leg. So Mane versus Salah. It's Salah 1, Mane 0. My question to you, and this is going to be the last discussion we have, is do you think an African team is good enough to win the World Cup? And if so, who do you think will be the first team to be able to do it? I'm going to start with you, Nana.
Well, the African teams have got a big disadvantages right from the get-go because
And they are?
Well, we mentioned it earlier. It's money in development.
Okay.
For coaching, the facilities of the Spanish, the German, the English, the Dutch, the French, everybody's facilities, everybody's professionalism. It's just all better. It's a better standard. You can get talent as Mane, Salah, many good African players over the time, but you need to have the organisation, you need to have the infrastructure, you need to have so many good things behind you to win World Cups. And they might get there one day, but not at the current rate, in my opinion, not because of the talent so much, but because of the money and the backing. Sadly to say, that's my opinion.
Roger?
I'd agree with Nana. I remember Pele said that an African nation would win the World Cup, and he was roundly mocked for it. I think that's why they had the World Cup in South Africa as well. But no, I don't think in the foreseeable future it's going to be an African side. Good individual players. We've seen that in the last 10 years in the Premiership. But as a team, no, I don't think so. I think you're looking at either, Brazil or Argentina, or it'll come from Europe again. So certainly won't be an Arab nation. So why we're holding it there is beyond me. But there you go.
Money. Back to the money.
Well, yeah, you're right.
So, Chris, what's your take? I know you put a comment in, but what do you believe? You don't think that they can?
No. I agree with what's been said before. I think in terms of just the infrastructure, in terms of their FAs and just putting things in place, the right coaching teams, things like that, they just tend to always go with. I don't even know. They're not even elite managers. It's just some random guy from somewhere who has probably coached.
But that's because it's all to do with money, though, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah,
it's to do with money. They can't afford the elite guys.
Yeah, but it's just random. If you can't afford an elite manager, just do it from within. Get somebody who has passion and has been part of the setup before. And that's
Senegal have done that.
They won, and they are the continent champions. So and remember, the last time they made it to a final, he was in charge, and they lost, but they didn't sack him. They kept him, and I'm not saying that is the reason why that they won. But ultimately, if you want to start again, Germany did it years ago when they realized, no, the old guard is out. We need to start again, and that's what countries tend to do. And I just think African countries should do the same for their long-term benefit. But at the moment, do I see somebody winning it? No. There's been better teams. I think of Ivory Coast, the Drogba, Salomon Kalou teams. I think of Cameroon. They had Samuel Eto'o and a couple of other guys. Even Ghana have had the
Ghana got cheated with Suarez diving on the line. No, I know he's an excellent player, but that was a goal. He dived on the line.
Can I just say?
I'll be sore about that forever.
Nana, can I just say that? Do you know what the sad thing about that was? The cameraman panned over to Suarez when he was watching the penalty, and I think it was Asamoah Jan.
He
went to take the penalty and he missed or was saved or whatever. I can't remember.
And that's why.
And Suarez's joy, and he took one for the team. It's different to the professional foul when the striker is running away.
No, I'm not.
So we know he cheated. But
he did the right thing. If it was from my side, I would have said he's done the right thing. But because it's not my side, I'll be forever bitter.
So, do you remember?
I think it's because it's Luis Suarez, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
No. I like him as a player. He's a good player. He's a good player. I think he's an excellent player.
Do you remember? And it's funny. I was reading an article about this the other day where it said that there's a club in New York, an Irish club in New York, and they frog marched Thierry Henry out of the Arsenal club. He went there to go and get a drink, and I'm Thierry Henry, but the Irish fans cannot forgive him for the handball flick that got France into the final, into the World Cup. And imagine that he was frog marched out of an Arsenal supporters club in New York because they don't forget.
Fans don't know. Fans don't. We're football fans. We don't. None of us forget.
Yeah.
We've all got our own little.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if cheated. No, because ultimately he was sent off. You got the penalty. You just got to put it in the net. If you miss, that's after that. There's he did what was right for him at the time.
And the club,
pantomime villain. His shoulders were broad enough. He's happy to do it, As a Liverpool fan, you enjoyed the moments of brilliance, and that always left a bitter taste in the mouth. Because he looks at it that my career is short, and I've got to do everything I can to win. I've got to do everything.
And that was a great Ghanaian side, to be fair.
Yeah, and this is my point. They had.
So, what about you, Keith? What do you? I mean, it's you. I don't know how much you have followed the African Cup of Nations or African football in general. What's your take on? Because obviously, as you know, I assume you're English. Your family are from Europe. Do you ever imagine that the World Cup will ever be won by someone that's not from South America or not from Europe?
It was interesting a few years ago when the great Nigeria team. JJ Okocha and
I
mean USA 94 I think was a year that they were considered a possibility, but I think Chris mentioned infrastructure, and I guess that is the problem, isn't it? In those sort of you've got to have the training facilities, you've got to have investment and everything else. I mean, obviously in Europe we've got state of the art gyms everywhere, we've got all these kind of state of the art facilities that players get involved in, and not that I'm sure, it'd be patronising to say that all the African kids are playing on dirt pitches and everything else. I'm sure there are, I'm sure there is infrastructure to a point, but whether it rivals what we've got in other parts of the world is another thing. And when you're talking about elite sports, it does have to have that. I thought it was interesting. I didn't watch a lot of the African Cup of Nations, but wasn't there a team, and this sort of, wasn't there a team that showed up without a goalkeeper?
He was sent off in one of the games, so they had to put a defender in.
Have a reserve goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Now you've got to things like that. You think, wow.
No, didn't he get injured or COVID? Wait a minute. See, let's back up and get the facts. Didn't the other one have COVID? And so he couldn't play. No, they had a reserve one, but he had COVID. So I get a little bit thingy when people like to say certain stuff about Africa. No, they had he had COVID.
They did.
I think the issue is
But don't you normally bring three to her?
You do bring three. I can't remember what happened with the other one. I think he may have been injured or something. But I don't know the whole facts. But it wasn't. They didn't have a keeper, and someone else had to go and go.
The reason why I even asked
it's something that we can look at and think, okay, that's sort of unusual in that state. But I suppose you've got to have a standard of competition in your own domestic league, I suppose, in order to have it. It's all, and also a lot of these players, the elite African players, are dotted around Europe.
Yeah. So this is what I was going. I'm waiting. I'm chomping at the bit to jump on it because of what you just said. Desai.
They're not playing in a league.
Desai. Who's Vieira. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head. These guys are all African, Ghanaian, Senegal. They're all African, but they're playing for European countries. Kante, I don't know what his original background is, but you're going to have so many elite African players. But the thing is, because they've developed in Europe, because of what we said, the Africans haven't got that development. They've developed and raised their game in Europe. Now they've naturalized or become French or whatever. So they're not playing for their natural or their sort of their parents' team. So a lot of African teams are missing that tranche of players as well. So there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them that you know.
Okay, so if we look at it like this, it's either been a European team or a South American team that have won the World Cup forever. It does seem like the hold on the World Cup is very much at grassroots. The grassroots, if your country has a well-developed infrastructure league, there's a very good chance that you will pull through and you'll have a good national team.
Sorry, Johnny. Sorry. I just want to say one last quick thing about it as well, which I think is very unfair as well. How many European teams are in the World Cup?
About 15.
How many South American teams are in the World Cup? So it's also weighted against them in that regard as well. It's always weighted against them. So sorry to add that, but if you've got so many loads of teams,
that's the money again. The European broadcasters pay the bulk of the money.
Oh no, I know.
And also, you've got the
best players.
Saying, most of the interest for football comes from the Europeans. So that's why they have the biggest.
Yeah, I understand you. I'm just saying it's weighted against them. There's so many things weighted against them.
It's money again, isn't it? That's where all the revenue comes from the Europeans and from the Italians, the French, the Germans, the British, who love the football, love the World Cup, and they're going to pay major rights. It's not going to be the same from Africa, even though they might love the sport. They just don't have the money.
When you consider you've only got 10 countries or 12 countries in South America, and 5 of them are given spots. Half of the continent.
There's a lot more opportunity for. I understand that, and I think, but then even so, it's very much Argentina, Brazil, and recently maybe Chile. It's a very closed. I mean, don't get me wrong. In the African Cup of Nations, Egypt have pretty much dominated for many years, and they have been the team to beat over the last few decades. We don't really talk about Asian football, even though I think it was South Korea a World Cup ago, a couple of World Cups ago, got
semi-final, wasn't it? Semi-final, was it? Yeah, semi-final.
And they had
2002, I think, was it?
Yeah,
when Brazil won.
Was controversial though, wasn't it?
Yeah. How they knocked out Italy was.
That's right. It was Italy, wasn't it?
Controversial.
Yeah. So that was partly, that was partly the conclusion, but then we ended up talking more.
Sorry.
No, but the funny thing is that that's the beauty of debate and discussion. The fact that we can look at something and go, well, it's quite skewed heavily to the Europeans because there's a lot of European teams that go. There's a lot of South American teams that seem to make it. Africa and Australasia and Africa get the scraps. And once they get to the tournament, they suffer because they don't have the infrastructure, the finances. There's been times when players have had to pay for the team. I remember once Adebayor, his bus was shot at on their way to an African Cup of Nations game, and that kind of imagine the England bus is being shot at by a team. That's going to cause a war. It's going to, we're discussing that in Parliament. I mean, this is the sort of what happened. I remember seeing it and thinking, hold on, Adebayor right now is saying one of our trainers has been killed in the bus on the way to a game. Once the African teams can get themselves away from that, evolve into the team that they can be. It's always been they've got the physicality. They may not have the strategic or they may not have the plan, But I watched the games. They've got plans now. They've got it. It's in place. It's just now whether they can turn that into, whether they can turn that into results at the highest level. And I do feel that if Egypt go to the World Cup and beat Senegal, I think the weakest team will be going there, because I think Senegal are better than them. But I think Egypt have got the infrastructure. They've been there before. They know how to do it, and they'll probably do well enough to get through. Maybe not get through the first round, but they'll be there.
But if we're saying that Bale can carry Wales, surely Salah can carry Egypt. I mean,
I don't know, but then how many? So, give you an example. Bale plays for Wales. Ramsey is in that team. All of the players in Wales play for either Premier League or La Liga or Championship teams. But when you go to the to the Egyptian side, they're playing in Saudi Arabia, and they're not playing in the top level league. Only a few of them are playing in the best leagues, and then some of them are playing in lower quality. I mean, I don't want to say that, but Kuwait
the PSG effect of where, because you're not playing at high level, when you then come to the high level, you found out. You found out.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be what will happen. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing how this World Cup will pan out. Now, I'm very mindful of time, gentlemen. I'm going to ask one last question, and then I will bid you farewell. So we're looking at a World Cup which is very extraordinary. It's going to be happening just before Christmas. So I think it starts around the 1st of December and it ends on the 18th. So everyone's European league is going to be put on pause. Yeah. For the month of December, everyone's league is going to be put on pause, and it's going to be reignited again in January. But as we all know, when you go on an international break, you're going to need time to bed back in to playing in the Premier League. Now, what's your take on the fact it's being played irregularly in winter in a country such as Qatar? Not Qatar.
Yes, that's right.
Qatar.
What's your take on the World Cup basically messing up the 2022-2023 season? What's your impression on what's happened here with this? Please, I'd like your opinions. I'll go with you, Roger. What's your take on it?
It's a difficult one. Football is a global sport now.
Mm-hmm.
And Blatter wanted to take it to lots of different nations.
Mm-hmm.
So plus obviously money was involved. He was bribed. So I mean, I don't necessarily mind it being in Qatar. I think it's going to have a big effect on the domestic leagues, and they don't like it obviously because they say there's no room in the calendar already. Certainly at the top end when you've got Champions League and everything else that's happening. Mm. So I don't know. Do you know what? I haven't really thought about it. I'm just going to have to go. I'm just going to go along with it. Hopefully enjoy the spectacle of it, and then pick up the pieces back in January and see where we are. But
just as a caveat, the football matches will be played at 7:00 in the morning, UK time.
Yeah, well, I might have to take some time off work in order to watch some of those. But,
so imagine they're going to be early kickoffs, really early kickoffs.
This is the problem when you've got a global sport, Johnny, because unless it's going to be played in Europe or possibly North America, which is not so bad, everywhere else you're going to be playing it at difficult times.
Asking for a friend, how early is too early to have beer?
Now,
never too early, Keith. Never too early.
That is indeed the question. Is it going to be like when you go on when you go on holiday, you're in the airport lounge and you're thinking, this is a 7:00 flight. Why am I drinking a beer? Like, really? Well, that's what happens. It's that discussion. Am I going to drink a beer and watch this game and then go to work? Am I going to do a half day? What's going to happen here? So as you said, you mentioned money. You mentioned that money has. I remember the bid, and I remember David Beckham was steering. He was, you had Ted Coe and you had Beckham. we have the infrastructure, we have the grounds, we have the mainline services, we have the train services, we have the infrastructure, we have everything. And their tick box was for you to be qualified, you have to have the grounds, tick. You have to have the infrastructure, tick. You have to have a secure economy, tick. You have to have a secure government and policing structure, tick. And when Qatar had it, they didn't even have any grounds built. Imagine it. They said, "Oh, we're going to build them. We haven't built them yet. We'll build the infrastructure, but we haven't got it yet. We're going to build. We're going to, employ police. We haven't got them yet." There was a lot of services. It seemed very odd that it was given there and not to us. But yeah, sorry, Chris, please carry on.
Yeah.
What's your take on?
The only thing I will say about that is, as someone who has, an African background, I will always buy into the fact that it has to always be in a place that's already got it in place. Yeah, I think because of the money that is involved, you have to give everybody a chance. But
yeah,
perhaps could have been done differently. I know the Euros was played across a certain number of countries last year. You could just say, right, we will always rotate it. So in this particular one, it's going to, what are we calling it? We're calling it the Middle East. And you allow members of the Middle East, I don't know, what do you call them, federation, to say, right, we want to get involved. It's going to hurt the fans, there's no doubt about it. But in terms of the whole corruption, and they've given us more and they promised us this, that, and the other, you could just say, right, we'll start with them, and then it will just go around the world. If you really want to get everybody involved, you just say, this region gets it this time. In 4 years' time, it's going to, let's say, Asia. Next time it goes to Africa. Next time it goes to North and wherever. And then those associations, they bid, they talk amongst themselves. Yeah, we'd like to get involved. We'd like to do a game. We'd like to do a game. The fans will be the ones who have to, deal with it in their pockets. But in that way, everybody just gets a go at it. Do you understand? Because like you said, if it's just one place and you don't have anything, it's a little bit like, okay, we're going to give you a whole load of money and you've now got to build this. And then once it's all done, it becomes a ghost town. So that's just me. I if you're asking me, what do I think about it? And then the seasons being disrupted, I think is completely pathetic. I'm being totally honest. I think it's a terrible idea. I think you understand why they've moved it, because players could not play in that kind of heat. So you get it. I just don't think they thought it through properly, because now once you finish the international tournament, you've got to come back and do an almost mini pre-season before getting into your rhythm for league. It's a pathetic idea.
Yeah. No.
And that's why it should never have been there. Because if you remember, their bid was, we can do it in the summer with air conditioned. Remember?
Yes.
So if that's your bid, if that's your bid has proven to be, as we've all said, it's proven to be because of money and corruption, not because of what you actually were going to do. Because you can't deliver what you said. It should never have been there. And I do understand it should go around the world, but it should go around the world in an organised fashion where the facilities are there, not when the facilities aren't there. Because it should have come to England. Russia had underhand things. Their computers all went missing when there was an inquiry. So it's all underhand, and we all know that because Blatter and Platini was in prison for it. But as regards the season, as an England fan, I think England have a great chance. Usually, England are playing at these tournaments at the end of a long, hard season where we've got no break, whereas all the other, Germany will have a break, Spain will have a break, England ain't going to have a break, no team will have a break, because it's just going to go straight into the World Cup. Yeah. So I think England, and the conditions, I don't know how cold or what the weather will be like, but I think this is one of England's best chances for the time factor as well, because it's not right at the end of the season.
Playing in Qatar in our winter, or I don't know if it's their winter.
I think it is their winter. Yeah, it is their winter.
They're still
warm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had this conversation already quite a few times where alcohol is connected to football. It's a massive part of the whole football experience. You go for a few bevies before the game. You watch the game. In some countries, you can drink in the ground. My understanding is we're having a World Cup in a dry country, You know, there's many rules around drinking and what goes along with it, and I think that's going to be a massive problem for the travelling fans from the likes of Britain and Scotland if they get there, and Wales.
Oh, we lost you, Johnny.
Let's give him a second or so. But yeah, you can see where he's coming from, and he's back.
Yeah.
He's back, or maybe he's not.
No.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. No, I hadn't actually thought of that from an overall perspective, that rather than it being at the end of a season, you're coming in at the middle and everybody's fit. So that's a really good point to bring out. And I think we have Johnny back.
Yeah, but can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah. I'm having a very sorry. I must apologise.
Oh dear.
Go on, then apologise.
Hardest thing to do, Roger.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word for Johnny.
Yeah.
Trust me. But then, okay.
Good.
It looks like he'll probably have to go out and come back in. So, as he said, let's do a step in. It was going to be his last question. I don't know where he was going to go with it, but I'll ask you, gentlemen. Here.
I've still got mine to do on this one.
Yeah, that's it. Please fire away, Keith.
Cool. I mean, I could talk for hours on this because I was livid by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think FIFA's corruption and everything else that's gone along with it. And when you add to that the whole human rights issues that have gone on in Qatar as well, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't have blamed nations for boycotting it. To be honest with you, that's a whole political debate that I'm not going to get into here. But you know, the whole thing is a sham, frankly. I don't see how, like you were saying, obviously I'm not against the idea. It's a World Cup. It should go to every continent, absolutely. But I think it should go to countries that have got a footballing pedigree. You know, it was dubious when it went to the USA. And they didn't have a professional league. They have now, and they've got it back again in 2026. And fair enough, you know, that they've got a professional league. So. But I think if you haven't got
But how have they got it twice? Sorry, Keith, how have they got it twice? And England have only had it once in '66. That's what.
Well, that is true.
That angers me.
Yeah,
that angers me.
Well, yeah, absolutely, all of that. But at least I've got no issue. You know, I mean, even Australia have got a professional football league. You know, there's plenty of nations in the Asian part of the world with professional football leagues that would have had the right. And this is, as you say, it comes down to money again. Somebody did a shady deal, and unfortunately, for reasons that I can't fathom, they haven't. They should have stripped them of it. Absolutely, they should have. They never did. And we're here now, and it's got to happen. But yes, it will disrupt the Premier League. It will cause problems. Teams going back into it, coming back into it cold. You know. Yeah. I don't know whether is the Championship. Are all leagues going to be suspended, or is it
all of them will cease? Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, so
I don't know about Leagues 1 and 2.
You're going to have the vast majority of footballers kicking their heels for 6 weeks, aren't you?
Yeah, Leagues 1 and 2 and those below, I'm not sure, because ordinarily during international breaks, if you've got a certain amount of international players in your team, you can get the game called off. But I think it might just be certainly in England, probably just the Premiership and Championship.
Yeah, but it's a joke, unfortunately. But you know, commercialism being what it is, I'm sure I'll still watch it.
With a beer at 7 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got Johnny back as well.
No, but you know what? I feel like a ghost because I'm thinking to myself, "Can you see me?" I'm like, am I alive? Like, what's going on? Am I here? Thank you so much, Chris. I bailed you out last week. You bailed me.
You did. I did nothing, to be honest. The guys just let it flow. So thank you very much.
I think my signal is suffering. So, guys, it has been an absolutely awesome show. Thank you so much, Nana, Roger, and Keith, and as always, Chris. I really do appreciate you coming on, and I would love to have you on again if you are available for more discussions. Obviously, we had this discussion during international break, so we couldn't really get into the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty of what's going on in team football. But we will do. I promise you, we will meet up again. We are the dream team. We will have another discussion where we talk all together. If you guys are available, if you want to say final goodbyes, please do before we end the stream.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Sterling, do you?
Yeah, thanks. Great fun. Great fun.
Yeah, it has been absolutely great. I really do appreciate all of you guys.
Really enjoyed it
so much.
Yeah,
it was
good.
really,
good
really
good
enjoyable.
stuff.
All right, guys. Anyway, so if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up. If you're watching the recording of this, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we will see you, Chris and I will see you on Wednesday for the next installment of ForMorSport. Guys, take care. Have a great week ahead of you, and we will see you in the next show. See you later, guys.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.